Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's class. Excuse me. Um, Khalid, Dr. Shehzad is on a speaking tour, and our substitute scholar for this class on the next week's class will be Dr. Khalid Zahir. I just spoke to him. He's joining shortly, so we should begin, inshallah, within a minute or two. Thank you for your patience, and sorry again for starting late.
That is, the close relationships, the relatives, kinships. Uh, Friendship is what we go for, we make on our own volition, but relatives are given to us by God. Parents, um, siblings, um, kids, and then, you know, cousins, etc. Uh, we are expected to be good to our relatives. The closer they are, the more deserving they are. So those who are fasik, they violate they don't abide by the promise that they've made to God, A, and they sever, they cut what God has asked to be joined, to be put in debt, which is uh, relationships of, you know, relatives, kinship. وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, and they cause mischief on earth. That is, by doing these three violations of norms, of expectations of the Almighty, they cause mischief on earth. When you are not loyal to your God, when you are not good with your relatives, then you're causing mischief on earth. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Such are the people who are going to be suffering from losses. They are like the ones who are the losers. They are going to lose in the next life because they've not been able to do what is expected of them. كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Oh people, how do you deny God? How do you do kufr with God? How are you in a state of rejection of God? Now, apparently this question means, it seems as if this question is posed to people who are atheists. But the fact of the matter is that there weren't any atheists at the time when the Quran was being revealed, at least in the locality where the Quran was being presented. People were not as yet bright or intelligent enough to say that there is no God. They used to believe in God, but their belief was not correct. It had flaws. There were other aspects of their own understanding which were mixed with belief in God. One aspect of denial of God is the denial of the life hereafter. Those people who believed in God, but they didn't believe in the life hereafter, the Quran tells us in this verse, it is as if they rejected God. So the Almighty is asking, كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ? How can you reject God? How can you reject, deny the possibility that there is God? But the actual question is, how can you deny the possibility of the life hereafter? Because if you don't believe in life hereafter, you don't believe in God. There is God without the concept of life hereafter doesn't make sense. I mean, this life is unfair. This life is not doing justice. And you believe in a God who is just. How is it possible? God's justice is not visible in this world. So the Almighty says that those who don't believe in the life hereafter don't believe in God. And He's posing this question, how can you reject God? That is, how can you reject the life hereafter? Makuntum ambatan. Whereas it is a fact that you were dead. Fahyakum. So He gave you life. That is, you were nothing. You didn't exist in the form of life. And then He gave you life. Thumma yumitukum. Then thereafter He is going to give you death again, put you to death again. Thumma yuhyikum. Then He is going to raise you back to life again. Thumma ilayhi turja'un. And then you are going to be made to return to Him. So as I said, the Almighty is saying that if you don't believe in the life hereafter, you don't believe in God. And how on earth can you not believe in God? Don't you see that you were non-existent? You were dead, and He gave you life. And then you know that you're going to die again. And then He's going to raise you back to life again. It is going to be no problem for Him to do it, you see. The way He created you in the first instance, He's going to create you again. That's what the Quran keeps saying. Kama bada'akum awwala marra. The way He created you, He originated you for the first time, the same way He is going to do it again. There's going to be no problem for Him. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He's the one who has created everything that is there on earth for you. That is, the facilities, the amenities, the resources that you needed to live in this world, they're all being taken care of. So everything that's in this world, in this earth, in this planet, is for you. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَىٰ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَسَوَّاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. Thereafter, He approached the sky, the heavens, so He made them into 7 heavens. فَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And He knows everything. That is, He made this planet, He made it suitable for human habitation living, and thereafter He made heaven, sky into 7 heavens, and He's all knowledgeable. Therefore, He knows everything that is happening, and therefore He had no problems in doing it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات. That was the first part. Now, the second part has to do with some issue that is problematic for Muslims, and in many cases non-Muslims also, to understand regarding the teachings of Islam, which we normally call misunderstandings about Islamic teachings. I'm sure that Dr. Shehzad Saleem must have talked about this before, uh, but there's never any harm in repeating the subject, more particularly when the subject is important. Now, the question or the misunderstanding that I am going to talk about today is probably somewhat more related to you, that is, people living in the non-Muslim world, than it is to us who are living here in this part of the globe, where we are living in a country which is, by a vast majority, uh, dominated by Muslim population. By the way, I just be coming from a discussion group, a seminar, where there was a Hindu boy who was actually in tears, about to cry. He mentioned that uh, they are being forced to convert to Islam in the remote parts of Pakistan, uh, Sindh, and southern Punjab. And he talked about his own sister as well. She was forced to become a Muslim, and some Muslim got married to her. And he also lamented the fact that even though his sister is educated, uh, she has been forced to marry a person, a Muslim who is not educated. But the topic that I'm going to discuss today is the possibility of friendship with non-Muslims. Uh, there is a popular understanding that Muslims cannot make non-Muslims their friends. And as a corollary of this understanding, you also have the popular view that if Muslims make non-Muslims their friends, then they're going to be considered to be a part of them. And therefore, the ruling about them is going to be no different. Ruling about the Muslims who made non-Muslims their friends is going to be no different from the ruling that is meant to be applicable for non-Muslims, which is what the terrorists in Pakistan and the other parts of the world uh, who are killing not just non-Muslims but Muslims as well. One of the arguments that they present is this very argument, that they say that since Muslims cannot make non-Muslims their friends, and whoever makes them their friends is going to be considered to be belonging to them, to be a part of them. And since Pakistan has allied with America and has allowed them to drop bombs from drone uh, drone attacks, uh, therefore Pakistani army is also like the American army, and they are also a legitimate target. So one of the verses that they quote is the verse 51 of Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5. The Almighty says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, believers, la tattakhizul yahud wan nasara. Do not make the Jews and the Christians awliya, friends. Ba'duhum awliya ba'd. They are friends of each other. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ. And whoever is going to befriend them amongst you, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. He is going to be a part of them. He is going to be considered amongst them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. God is not going to guide people who are unfair. They're unfair in their behavior. They don't deserve to be guided. Now you see, the verse is very clear, apparently, that you cannot make Jews and Christians your friends. If you're going to do it, you will be considered a part of them. You will be no different from them. That's what the problem, the challenge is. That these people, they present their arguments in a manner that it seems that God is saying what they're claiming is the right understanding of Islam. And the verses they're quoting quite often are translated correctly. There's nothing wrong with the translation. But the truth of the matter is that in most cases, the extremist, the terrorists' views are based upon verses and ahadith which are taken out of the context. For example, this particular verse is followed by verses 57 and 58, and they're actually clarifying what this verse actually means. But before I go into these two verses, let me explain that the nouns Yahud and Nasara are preceded by Alif Lam. Now, Alif Lam is the equivalent of the or the in English. Uh, in Arabic, when a noun is preceded by Alif Lam, it can mean one of the two things, apart from some other less common possibilities. The two most predominant possibilities are A, the would make a common noun proper noun in the sense that it would include everyone that belongs to that category. In other words, Al-Yahud and An-Nasara could mean all Jews and all Christians. However, the same Alif Lam can also mean a particular group amongst the people or category that the noun is referring to. In this particular case, Al-Yahud would mean, in the second possibility, these Jews, An-Nasara, these Christians. That is, a particular group of Jews and Christians. Now, obviously, when there are multiple possibilities, there are more than one possibility of translating a certain word, and both are correct from the point of view of their grammatical potential, grammatical possibility. Then, what decides as the correct understanding is the context. The context of this verse, as I said, if you look at verses 57 and 58, they say, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, believers, la tattakhizul lazina attakhazu dinakum huzuban wa laiba. Do not make those who make your religion a target of ridicule and fun. Min allazina utul kitaba min qablikum wal kuffar, amongst those people who were given the book before you and those who rejected the truth knowingly. Awliya, don't make them friends. Wattaqullah, and fear God, in kuntum mu'mineen, if you are truly believers. In other words, the Almighty, what He mentioned in verse 51, is clarifying in verse 57 that these people of the book, Jews and Christians, about whom the Almighty's decision is that they cannot be made friends, are the ones who make fun of your religion. What fun were they making? The Quran goes on to say, وَإِذَا نَادَيْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, when you call each other towards prayers, that is, you make azan, اتخذوها هزوا ولعبا. They make it a target of ridicule and fun. ذلك بأنهم قوم لا يعقلون. This is because they do not understand. They are the people who don't understand. So the Quran has clarified that the Jews and the Christians who cannot be made friends are the ones who make fun of our religion. Obviously, if somebody is making fun of my religion, I would not make him my friend. Not just amongst Jews and Christians, anybody, even a so-called Muslim, if he's making fun of my religion, how can I make him my friend? Uh, Another reason why we got a popular understanding that Jews and Christians cannot be made friends cannot be correct is the fact that has been mentioned in verse 5 of the same surah, surah number 5, that is Surah Al-Ma'idah. The Almighty has allowed وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ. That is, believing men have been allowed to get married to the chaste uh, ladies from amongst the people of the book. So, a Jew lady and a Christian lady can be a legitimate wife of a Muslim man, but she cannot be his friend, which obviously is absurd. Likewise, uh, we also have clarification in Surah Mumtahina later in the Quran, wherein the Almighty is clarifying it in the Surah. Surah Mumtahina is 57, 58, 59, 60. Surah number 60. And the verse is 8. The Almighty is clarifying again that the kind of people that you are not allowed to make friends, who are they? He says, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. God doesn't stop you from those who have not fought you in matters of religion and who have not expelled you from your homes, that you be good to them and be fair to them. Inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin. Indeed, God loves those who are fair. Prior to this verse, and then the next verse says, Innama yanhakumullahu. God only stops you, anil lazina qatalukum, from those people who have fought you with deen and matter of religion, فَأَخْرَجُوكُم مِّن دِيَارِكُمْ, and they have expelled you from your homes, وَظَاهَرُوا عَلَى إِخْرَاجِكُمْ, and they have worked at, and they have made sure, they have pressurized you to leave your homes. God stops you, an tawallaw, that you make them your friends. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُمْ, and whoever makes them friends, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ, such are the people who are zalim, unfair. So, the Quran is pretty much clear that the expectation of the Almighty that you cannot make friends amongst Jews and Christians is an expectation that is only applicable in the case of those non-Muslim Jews and Christians who are making fun of your religion, fighting against you, who conspired and pressurized you to leave your homes because of your religion. Such people cannot be made our friends, but as far as the rest are concerned, well, there's nothing stopping us from making them friends. And obviously, it's only when we're going to come close to them that we are going to be able to preach to them, to let them know what our religion is, and so on and so forth. So that was one misunderstanding that I wanted to clarify. Now I think we have another 15 minutes for our question answer session.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. If anyone has any question, then please click on the hand icon next to your name and I'll open your mic. I have a question from Rafia Khaja Saiba. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Saleem, Dr. Khalid, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I have some questions and I hope you'll be able to answer them. Number one is that you said in one of your classes that Allah says that one must maintain relationships with our siblings and relatives. My question is, if a person has been deprived of his inheritance by his sibling, are we still supposed to be close to them and not break off with them? This is one question. The second question is that I've been listening to your different classes and it has been bothering me, and I wanted to ask you that in one of your ladies' classes, some of the educated ladies were asking questions like, is listening to music and watching movies and comedy shows haram? And another asked you that if I pay my zakat, is it okay for me to go to Europe for a holiday? So what is bothering me is that these are the enlightened people, and what is causing them to have this side of doubts about our religion? Because what will happen to the young people if people, educated, enlightened people like these ladies are having such worries? So if you could possibly answer these two questions first.
As far as the second question is concerned, I think there could be two reasons. One reason is that the prevalent popular religious understanding is that you are truly religious when you make your life difficult, when you confine yourself to a position of, call it, mere survival. The less you get indulged in worldly matters, the better it is. Because it's a popular narrative and it is put across by religious people with arguments which are seemingly religious in nature. Therefore, there obviously are doubts in the mind of those people who approach religion and want to be good practicing Muslims, and at the same time would like to have a good life. So one reason is that they quite often hear such arguments from other religious people, and therefore they would want to know as to what the truth about it is. The other reason is that most certainly, as good believers, one would always like to err on the side of caution. That is, uh, should we indulge more or less in worldly matters is obviously a question that would always confront a believer. There are certain worldly matters which come very close to uh, what one might categorize as overindulgence, which might be at the expense of us of one's religious commitment. Uh, so let's not be surprised. It's a good thing that people keep worrying about such matters, keep thinking about such matters. I mean, you asked about zakat and going to Europe for an annual or twice a twice a year trip. I think it's a very valid question. Living in Pakistan, you are normally living in an island uh, which is surrounded by an ocean of poverty. So, if somebody is worried as to whether mere payment of zakat would be enough for us to get salvation, to be successful in the next life, I think it's a valid question. So, I'm not surprised actually, and not even disappointed, because I think if one is really serious and concerned about the life hereafter, one would like to maintain a balance. Quite obviously, the Almighty doesn't want us to to stay away from worldly blessings. These blessings are God's gift to us. But then obviously we would not like to overindulge in them. And that is what gives rise to such questions. As far as the first question is concerned, you see, if you've got siblings, somebody has got siblings who have not been fair with the person as far as the distribution of inheritance is concerned. Uh, Obviously, it's something which is uh, an act of injustice on the part of the other sibling. One cannot be expected to be overwhelming and warm in one's relations with such siblings. But the Almighty, the least that He expects from us is that we should still not sever, cut off our relations with them. Uh, the difference between cutting off relations with relatives and meeting them and maintaining a minimum level of relationship is that when you sever your relationship, when you cut off your relationship, you are doing it aggressively. You are taking the initiative. So don't take the initiative to cut yourself off from your siblings, even if they have been unfair to you. However, if they on their own are refusing to meet you, uh, and you have kept looking for them, then hopefully it's not going to be something which will be considered a blame on you.
Okay, Dr. Khalid, two more questions, please. Uh, we have elections coming in Pakistan, and we would like to elect the correct rulers who we think would be good for the country, good for us. Does our religion not allow us to criticize certain candidates who we think may be committing shirk? Can we not speak openly against them so that we do not elect them? And the other question is, in Saudi Arabia, women cannot move without the permission of their guardian, husband, or brother. They are not allowed to even open a bank account. Is this something to do with Islam, or is this something just particular to the beliefs in Saudi Arabia? Thank you.
I think as far as the second question is concerned, it's a cultural matter over there. It's uh, an exaggeration in following some of the Islamic norms, which do require that we should provide protection to our ladies. They should not be exposed to the society in a manner that their weakness is going to be taken advantage of. They should not be allowed to be exploited. For that purpose, the Almighty wants us to be protective. But obviously, this overprotective approach has got something to do with their culture. As far as the first question is concerned, most certainly, I mean, the selection of the right candidate is an important matter, and there are people who are, while considering the pros and cons of the different candidates, they are talking about the various different aspects of them, good and bad, so long as they remain fair, they remain within the limits of decency, uh, it is allowed to them. And obviously, in some cases, probably it's important. But obviously, people have their own views, their own ideals, their own likes and dislikes. And obviously, there are backgrounds for why they think positively uh, in favor of some people and not in favor of others. Therefore, even while you are within your justifiable limits of criticizing people, more particularly those who are aspiring to assume important positions after elections, to criticize them fairly, uh, you should do it in a manner that you do not exaggerate or overdo it. You know, as somebody put it, that look here, 25th July is going to come and go. but your friends and relatives are going to stay. So don't ever do something or say anything that would cause your longer term relations to be spoiled for the sake of an event which is going to come and would obviously is going to be of some importance consequence to one of us, but it's not something that should be a reason for us to be cut off from each other because of strong language.
But Dr. Khalid, all the corruption, why are we not allowed to expose the corruption of all these candidates, which is all very clear in black and white? Why are we
Now,
keeping quiet about it?
which statement of mine said that you can't do it? I said, why not?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions, Doctor.
Thank you, Rafia Saiba. Thank you, Dr. Saab. We have about 4 minutes remaining. If there is any other question, please click on the raise hand feature and we'll take that as the last question. Dr. Saab, if I can use this time, I had a question for you. Excuse me. You mentioned that Quran allows Muslim men to marry Ahle Kitab uh, female women. Does Quran at all provide a context to that under uh, the reasoning or the hikmat behind it, or why this is allowed, or is it just a blanket permission? The reason I ask is Gandhi Saab, I've heard him mention that in his views in today's time, even though it's allowed, he would recommend even for Muslim men not to marry Ahle Kitab females. And his reasoning was that, we live in a time in which, we're not in a dominant situation, and the chances, I think you know what he's referring to. So is this the context Quran at all provides behind this permission for that time?
To my ordinary understanding, I think this understanding that he has drawn is based on the context of the times when the Quran was being revealed and the completely changed context of our present times. And is also based on many experiences of people who have attempted to get married to the ladies belonging to the people of the book who didn't convert to Islam. Uh, their experiences have shown, he says, he believes, that the arrangement didn't turn out to be very, very successful and very positive for the family in general, and in particular, for the case of the children, the kids that were born in such wedlocks, uh, they didn't turn out to be good Muslims. They were confused, and in most cases, they followed the religion and the ways of their mothers. So I think, although there is no mention in the Quran that would give you a reason to feel that this line of argument is correct, yet obviously, as a deep thinker of the Quran and its message, uh, and obviously as somebody who would want to know the wisdom behind a certain permission or a prohibition, Mahmudi Saab and Maulana Amin Hassan Islahi as well, probably Maulana Maududi as well, they all came up with uh, somewhat similar conclusions that this kind of permission, if it fails in our present time, probably
Uh, Dr. Khalid, one last question, please.
not.
I know we all believe that lying is very wrong, and I agree with you, and you feel very strongly, but is it possible that one can lie to save one's life when one iman is strong?
Uh, as far as saving lying for saving one's life is
Or
concerned,
somebody else's life.
uh, as far as saving one's own life is concerned, the Quran has given permission itself. The Quran says in Surah Nahl that, you after believing, if you go back on your belief and move out, it's something which is going to invite the displeasure of the Almighty, except in case man ukriha, who has been forced by circumstances, وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ, and his heart is satisfied with faith. So you deep inside you are satisfied that you're Muslim and you want to stay as a Muslim, but you know that if you're going to make a statement, then you're going to be killed. That's an exception which the Almighty has allowed. Now, if you want to ask about somebody who is other than you and his life is also at stake, probably you might infer. I do believe that this inference uh, is correct. That is, if it's something permissible for your own life, it should be permissible to save the life of somebody else. But if we lower the expectation as far as you know the uh, the seriousness of need, why one is sometimes allowed to save one crew, if we make it uh, something of a habit, then obviously it's going to cause lots of problems. There are Muslims who have started telling lies, uh, expecting that it probably is religious permission for you to be able to lie to achieve a good result. That's not true. Lying is a big crime under all circumstances. However, in the case of saving one's life or probably the life of somebody else, then you will be forgiven. It's a permission which has been given in an extreme situation, wherein if you would do it and seek forgiveness from the Almighty, hopefully the Almighty is going to forgive.
Thank you, Dr. Sab. Our class time is over. Just one quick thing. I have received something and asked to share with you. Kashif Khan Sab, I'll share your email address as well as your message with Khalid Sab, and then he can respond to that in his own time. Thank you very much. Inshallah, we'll meet next Saturday. If there's
Can
anything
you
you wanted
kindly
to say.
give my number?
Khalid Sab,
Right.
is it okay
if you
to
give
give
it,
your WhatsApp number?
yeah, please both.
Okay. Then I'll go ahead and share your number with Kashif Saab so he can be on your broadcast list as well, and as well as email. And if anyone else needs it, please write it to info@Al-Mawrid US, or send your number and I can send it to Khalid Saab, and he has a WhatsApp broadcast list that you can be a part of. Thank you very much. Inshallah, we'll meet next Saturday. Assalamu alaikum.